Welcome to the April solution session for CounterSketch. My name is Heather Kutzman and I'm the CounterSketch product manager. So today on our solution session, we've got quite a bit of information to cover, including a couple of Pinterest to price examples. Some of you may be aware we recently posted on our Facebook and Instagram pages a survey so you could kind of pick which type of piece you'd like to see designed in the webinar. Several of you participated in that, so thanks for doing that. And those are the types of examples that we're going to work through in the webinar this morning. So in the future, if you'd like to have more input into what type of examples we cover in Pinterest to Price, please follow us on our social media and you can answer that survey question and help direct the content that we share on these webinars. The next tool that we're going to talk about this morning are our measuring tools. I feel like these are really important. It's not a new feature that's been added to CounterSketch, but it is so critical that I wanted to spend a little time on it today. I think it can be really helpful in helping your customer to understand kind of the full scale and the difference of what they're seeing on the computer screen versus what their finished ring will look like. So we're going to spend a little time talking about those measuring tools and how you can use them to again help to close the sale by showing the customer accurate scaling. Finally, we're going to take a look at some trending wedding bands. So we've got quite a few wedding bands in CounterSketch. Some of them are very, very popular. Some of them are eternities. Some of them are men's wedding bands. So each webinar we try to select a certain category of jewelry and kind of zero in on the library models associated with that category. And so that's what we are going to do on this morning's webinar. So that's what we hope to accomplish today. We're going to go ahead and kick things off right away with our Pinterest to price. We are going to cover this asymmetrical halo style. So you can see here I've got 3 different rings. They're pretty similar in style. We're not going to exactly copy any one of these, but we're going to imagine that your customer comes in with a Pinterest board, say that has these 3 rings on it, and we're going to try to create something that's a little bit of a nod to this type of styling. So it's kind of an asymmetrical halo. You can see that there are mixed stone shapes or stone sizes on several of these halo styles. They use a non-round center stone, and sometimes the halos are attached directly to the mounting or the engagement ring, and sometimes it's a wedding band accent piece that's added. So again, we're not going to build exactly one of these. We're not going to try to copy someone else's work, but rather we're going to kind of create our own design that would be kind of inspired by these types of rings and this type of look. So without further ado, let's hop on over into CounterSketch and get started. You will notice that my CounterSketch looks a little bit different from yours. We have started testing for our June release of CounterSketch, and as the product manager, I am one of the testers, and so I do have a little bit of a different look to my screen than you do. So I apologize if that's a little confusing or makes things look a little strange on your end. All of the functionality is exactly the same. The only thing we've done is gone in and changed some of these tile images. So you guys are getting a little bit of a preview of kind of a first draft of what we're hoping to release at JCK. But again, all the functionality is going to be exactly the same as what you're using. The biggest difference is just the look of some of the slides. So I'm going to go to all ring designs, and you'll notice that in several of those, or one of those rings that we were looking at, they were bezel set, and that's the detail that we're going to look for. We're also going to look for something that is pear shaped, because 2 out of those 3 rings was a pear shape, and I think that a stone that kind of has a point and a lobe rather than maybe an oval or a round or a princess that's very symmetrical gives this design a little bit more uniqueness. So that's what we're going to go for. And then I'm also going to select a bezel option. So by left clicking on that bezel in my center setting style, it's going to limit my library to only show me styles that have a pear-shaped center and are also bezel set. So we've got quite a few options to choose from here. I'm looking for something fairly simple because we're going to add a lot of detail to it. So I'm probably going to start with this design here. I can take these stones on the shank away, and so this is the one that we're going to start with for our design. And again, we're not building exactly any one of those styles. We're just going to kind of create something inspired by that type of look. As this style opens up, we're going to again kind of make a few quick changes to the design right away. One of those is to remove the accent stones on the shank. So we take those away and it starts to look much more like a basic design that we can then add pieces to. I'm also going to change my gem center shape to be a pear shape again, just because that's kind of a little bit more closely related to the style that we're looking to build. This height on our center stone is a little tall to me, so I want to bring this down. I'm going to look under my gem center menu options and then take and left click and drag my slider to the left just to bring that center gem height down a little bit and closer to the finger rail. Another thing that we can do if we're not happy with the height still, we can left click on our options menu and expand our control range, and that's going to give us a little bit more space to take this further to the left and lower that stone just a little bit more. So once we get that where we want it and we're happy, we want to make sure also that we've got our finger size correct. So we're going to come up here and maybe make this a size 6. So now that we've got our base kind of pulled together, the next thing that we want to do is go in and add some of those unique details. So maybe that half halo on one side, maybe we'll mix in 2 different stone shapes to kind of add a little bit of variety. And maybe also to kind of be sure that we're staying in our customer's budget, we'll do a partial metal halo on one side, just so that we're getting kind of a variety of look. And not just all stone, so that it looks like a traditional halo. So let's now go in and left click to add freehand parts, and then I'm going to left click on my settings options. And within settings, I'm just going to pick this 3-prong head. I really like this round 3-prong head when I'm building any type of a cluster. I think it helps the diamonds stand out a little bit more and be more noticeable, and it reduces kind of the amount of metal that you would have in a traditional 4-prong basket setting. So I'm going to left click and drag just to take this size of this stone down quite a bit. And now that we've got our stone a little bit smaller, we can left click and drag it up towards our setting. And if you want at this point, you can go to a top-down view or a top view, and that'll make it a little bit easier to see everything that you're placing. Now when this stone comes out, because it's a 3-prong, it looks kind of funny. We want really 2 prongs touching our halo, our bezel halo there. So we're going to need to rotate our head around until it makes that contact. I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and then left click on my rotation handle. And as I do that, it's going to rotate my stone at 45-degree increments, and that's going to help me to line all of that up really, really nicely. So now that we've got this stone lined up and everything is kind of fitting together and looking nice, we can left click and drag it out just a little bit so that it's touching the halo. From there, we're going to left click on the blue box and then left click on our polar array. So when we use polar array, you can see that it starts to lay out our design on both sides of, or on around the shape of our center stone. Right now it's set to round, so it's not following the curvature of our pear exactly, and it's also laying out only on the right side of my stone. So if I come up here and left click on this symmetrical option, then it will lay out on both sides of my stone, which is what I really want it to do. It's also pretty heavy. As I mentioned, I would like to go back in and add maybe different stone shapes in addition to the round. So if I do that, I need to leave some spacing. So I'm just going to come down here and maybe decrease the number of stones that are showing up. So that's closer to what I want, but I'm still not making great contact on the side. So what I can do is start to click through these different options until I find a shape that fits the outline of my stone better. So you can see I'm left clicking on that third box in Polar Array, and as I do, it kind of gives me different shape options to choose from. There's a marquee. There's my pear, and it's okay. I'm still not making great contact on this side, but it could work. The square's not great. The round is okay. This actually doesn't look too bad. That's our cushion shape, and that's, actually not a bad fit. And this is our oval, which I think maybe is a little bit too tight of a curvature. So again, you can kind of click through these until you find the one that you like best. I'm pretty happy with the cushion shape, so I'm probably going to go with that. Alternatively, what you can do as well is actually go in and individually place all of these stones. So either one will work. I'm going to use this just for speed and simplicity. So we're going to now turn off our polar array, so just left click on that blue box and we can kind of see those stones laid out. We have been working in our top view, so let's change to a perspective view just so we can see our alignment. And here you can see we've been working well above our actual stone. And so what we're going to do now is left click here and drag these down. Alright, so now that they're making contact with our stone, that looks pretty good. And we want to go back and add in those other shapes. So if we want to, we can add stones. If we want to, we can add metal. I'm going to add maybe 2 stones at the top and then maybe some metal work over here on the sides. So let's go back to our freehand parts. Left click on settings. And I want to add pear shapes this time. So if we want, we can sort by pairs. And then I'm going to choose this 4-prong basket setting and add it out onto the screen. Alright, so we got this guy out on our screen. And now we're going to choose our pear shape. And that's a little large for an accent stone, so we're just going to left click and drag it to the left, and that'll scale down our pear. Then we can drag it straight up and straight out. And right now it's sitting on top of that round stone, so we're going to need to move it over just a little bit and then use our rotation to kind of place it in between those 2 stones. It looks a little large to me, so the overall size of the pear is a little bulky and it's running into those other stones. We could always go back and reposition our other stones, that's not a problem, or we can choose a smaller stone size. So I'm going to go 4 by 2 instead of 3 by 2.5. And that helps me quite a bit. Now we'll drag it down more in line with those other stones that we've got. And it's still a little bit large. So we can go about this a couple of ways. If you want to, we can make these stones smaller. They're round stones, so we can go back and do 1.7s in there rather than 2 millimeters. And that helps a little bit. or again, we can adjust the stone size of this, or we can change the placement. So it just all depends on what we want to do. Obviously, if we're working with our customer and they have specific stone sizes that they want to use, then we can change that as well. We've also got a V prong out on the end of this pear shape. Sometimes that's good, maybe because of the size and scale of all of this, we like that extra heavy protection kind of on that point of our pear. However, if you don't want the V prong, you can come over here under settings and left click on the V prong option and it'll take that away. So depending on what you'd like to use, you can choose either option. And this time we're just going to left click on side to mirror that other stone over to the other side of our setting. So again, we've got kind of a half halo, sort of, or maybe a half cluster. We've got two different stone shapes represented, and now we're going to go back and put a little piece of metal detail work in here in this opening. So we're really just kind of creating our own abstract or nouveau halo. I'm going to look under scrolls and see what I can find that looks good, that'll fit in with my design. I really like using static parts, so I'm going to left click on static parts. Static parts are basically pieces that do not have a menu on the left hand side. So I have the ability to scale and all of that without necessarily having to go into a menu, and that's why I really like static parts. So we're going to double left click to open the static part, and I'm just going to rotate it around to the side. So again, holding shift and rotating, and then using my arrow to bring it up into the design and then over to the left. So it looks really kind of bringing it just into position. And again, if we were using a counterpart, we would have a menu over here on our left side that would control the scale of the piece. However, because we chose a static part instead of a counterpart, we can actually come in here, kind of rotate and position these pieces using just our handles. And again, that's personal preference. We have both types of pieces in the library because we know some people prefer to use handles and some people prefer to use the sliders. So that looks pretty good. It's really thin, especially in comparison to my settings. So I'm just going to use, again, that little scaling disc to make it a little bit heavier so that it's more noticeable, stands out a little bit more. I'm also going to scale it down just a little bit so that you can see all of the detail and that doesn't get lost. Alright, so we've got one on there. That looks pretty good. We can do side and mirror that same piece over to our other side. And now we've got that piece completely built out. I'm going to turn off my little blue dots, which will take away some of those distracting handles. And now we can kind of take a look and see how all of that is fitting and coming together. Good question. So Carla asked, does it matter that these two melee are into the bezel? So you can kind of see here that that setting is really close to the bezel. If you want to, Carla, you can go through and take the time and individually move these guys and place them. This is something that our Cad Cam services team is definitely going to adjust for you. So feel free to leave it this way, and then if you want to change it around later on, or like I said, Cad Cam will change it for you. So good question, but don't, again, if you're sitting there working with a customer, then don't feel like you need to go through and get all of this perfect before you submit it to Cad Cam. That's something that they will check. And you actually don't even need to leave a message for them. So usually, again, they're going to take a look to see what is manufacturable, and they're going to know that if that stone is sitting that closely, that bezel is essentially unusable. You won't be able to set that center stone. So they're going to fix anything like that that they see. And this was our first example. Our second option that we were going to look at were these large 3-stone gemstone rings. So they're all prong set. They're pretty traditional, nothing like super exciting or kind of funky sides or anything like that. Just really nice, clean 3 stones, but they have really large gems in them. So again, this is kind of a cool option for you to choose. So let's hop over back into CounterSketch, and on the start page we actually have a 3-stone category. So we're just going to start there, left click on that 3-stone subcategory, and it's going to bring up 2 pages, depending on how you have your results page set, but about 2 pages of 3-stone options. Now I'm looking for something that's going to be super versatile. You'll notice that a lot of these styles, if you click on them, sometimes only have one center gem shape that you can choose from. I want something again that's going to be super versatile, so I'm going to stay away from styles that indicate they only have a single center stone option and look for styles that have more flexibility to them. So this style here, for example, has quite a few center stone shape options to choose from, and it also has these really great half moon diamonds on the side, which we love. So that would be a good one to consider. I'm actually going to go with this one here. I love this 3-stone mounting. It's super traditional. If you look at it from the side, it's got some really classic lines, nice prongs, and it also has a large variety of center stone shape options. So this is the one that I'm going to start us out with. As we finish up, I'll show you guys a couple of other ones that you can choose from that look really, really good that you could also use as well. Alright, so now that we've got this style up, you'll notice over here on the left that we've got quite a few choices that we can make. So you can see our gem center shape. We've got a bunch of center gem shapes to choose from. I'm maybe going to go ahead and start with a cushion. So we'll left click on the cushion and add it out there. We also want to make it a good bit bigger because just based on our design we could do that. And then after that, we can go into our gem side. So when we go into our gem side, again, you can see we've got tons of different shapes to choose from, including these nice little pairs, which I think makes a really neat design. Again, we can do kind of these emerald cuts, which are fun. And the great thing about this ring is you also have the ability to left click on the gem side rotation. So this is a pretty cool feature. You can take those stones that were horizontal and now kind of that were vertical and now make them horizontal, which is pretty cool. And you can do that with almost all of these shapes. Obviously for rounds, there's not a left or a right side or a horizontal or a vertical, but for these pairs you can definitely see that, and the emerald cuts as well. So definitely this is a great model when you're looking to build something like that. If we want to change the stone color, all we have to do is left click here on our any gem, any color, or we can go in and choose our materials. So we can left click on the center gem shape, change the color, and then select our side gem color and change it as well. So lots of options here to choose from. You guys can definitely see that there's lots of flexibility with this particular model, so I wanted to call this one out when you're building those large 3-stone options. Another thing that you can look at, or another model that I really like, is that one that I mentioned before with the half moon shapes. So if we come down here to, I think it was an emerald, yeah, this guy is also really flexible. Okay, so we did get a question while we're waiting on this one to come up. I'll go ahead and address that. It says, how far apart or close do you want the side stones to the center stone? That's a really good question, and I think, Carly, you'll find that most of our designs, it's set up the way that it should be, or that our designers feel that it should be. That isn't to say that you can't go in and make changes to kind of suit what your customer is looking for. So just because we say that this spacing looks good and that's looking at it from kind of a top down, doesn't necessarily mean that that is the best or the only way that you could place those stones. So definitely kind of place what you think looks good, and then our CAD CAM services team will make any adjustments that they need to for manufacturability reasons. So if you get them a little bit too close and the stones can't be set, then they'll make the adjustments for sure. Also, don't be afraid to go to our CAD CAM services page. On that page, we have a standards document. So it's basically what our validators use to confirm that the piece is manufacturable, and we have a copy of it on the CAD Cam page. You can download, it's a PDF, I think, and then you can kind of take a look and just work through kind of looking at the details that we recommend. And then if you want, you can make sure that those are part of your design. Again, if you don't have time, our validators are going to do that legwork for you. But if you're kind of looking for some standards and you want to just increase your design skill, that document standards on our CAD CAM services page is a great reference. So we went through 2 3-stone options here on the webinar today. These guys, again, use larger gemstones. You've got a lot of flexibility with the model with not only your center but your side gem shape. There was one more that I wanted to call out specifically that does, again, deal with larger stones and gives you a lot of flexibility, and it's this model here. So again, any of these 3-stone options I would consider depending on what type of styling that you're looking for. Based on the styling that we were going with, based on our photos today, I picked these 3, and any 3 of these would work, so you can kind of talk to your customer and find the option that's going to fit best with what they're looking to purchase. But all of these give you a lot of flexibility with your center stone and side stone shapes, and even sometimes give you the ability to rotate those side stones or your center stone. So you can really go in here and kind of play around with the different shape combinations, the different color combinations, and come up with the perfect kind of match that's going to be what your customer wants to purchase. I'm going to pull up my portfolio for this just because I do have those design numbers in there, and that way if you guys are looking for these in the future, you can kind of easily find them. So there was this one that has the center stone with the emerald cut, the larger ovals, and then the 3 emeralds. And again, this is just how they show up on the search screen. If you you can make all the changes that you want to them to be what you want them to be. There was one last one. In our picture, none of this styles that we chose had halos, but I wanted to call this 3-stone style out because it does have halos and it has a lot of flexibility in the center stone and side stone option. So if you are looking for a 3-stone halo, this is another one of my favorites. So let's go down. Here we go. Wow, it looks a little garish with those green stones in there. But you can kind of see this is another one. And just a reminder, I did get a question. Right now, I am running a beta version of our release for JCK. So if my screen looks differently than yours, that is why. In addition to being the product manager, I'm also a tester for the software. And so we are testing, getting things ready for JCK or for our summer release depending on what happens with JCK, and so as a result my screen may look a little bit different than yours. So there's nothing wrong with yours, all the functionality is still the same, but it just looks a little different. And again, this is another model, like I said, a 3-stone but with halos that'll give you a little bit more flexibility. So the Cad Cam Page, let me show you guys where that lives. So you're just going to go to stellar.com, and you will have to log in order to get access to this page. So I'm just going to log in. And we'll go to customization and then Cad Cam services. And this is where we'll find that document standard. So go into, again, log into your homepage, look under customization and then Cad Cam services. And this is the Cad Cam homepage. If you go to Cad Cam FAQ, right here you'll see production standards. So this, when you click on this here, it'll open up a PDF, and then you will be able to actually access and start seeing things. And now we're going to talk a little bit about measuring tools. So measuring tools are super helpful in kind of conveying the overall scale and size of what your customer is seeing on the screen and what the finished product is going to look like. In CounterSketch, we give you quite a few measuring tools that you can choose from. So we have a grid, we have just a regular measuring tool, and then we have our design try-on hand. So all three of these tools can be really helpful. You can see here that all the measuring tools are up in the upper right corner of your screen. And again, it just helps you to understand scale, translate what they're seeing on the screen into reality, and also thinking about your production and what the finished piece is going to look like. So let's hop back into CounterSketch. I'm going to grab just any design. So let's go into our all ring designs. This again is a preview of some of the new styles that are going to be coming out later this month. So I'll grab one of these so you guys can kind of get a pre-release view of the new styling that we're going to hopefully send out to you next Monday, I believe, with all of the April library styles. These are those styles. I'm going to open up this first one because I think it has a lot of different things that we can measure, right? So we've got our ring out here on our screen. And as I mentioned, we can use our grid. So we're going to left click on Hide Show Grid, and it brings this grid out on our screen. Now you can see that the grid is divided into smaller blocks. These are 1 by 1 millimeter, and larger blocks, and these are 5 by 5 millimeter. So these are, again, all in millimeter sizes so that it's easy to see things and you can kind of get a better idea of scale. So I'm going to reorient my ring so that I'm looking at it from a top-down view. And now I can kind of zoom in and see that the width of my shank is approximately 2 millimeters here at the side. I can also see that it looks like my ring, kind of if I start from my shank, extends out about 5, probably 9 millimeters to the end of this stone from kind of the start of my shank. So it's about 9 millimeters wide, and that's just these 5 millimeters and then 4 more here. So I'm getting some kind of overall general dimensions of my ring using the grid. I can turn off the grid if I want to, if I feel like that's distracting for my customer. And I can also use my measuring tool. So the grid was the very first option here on our upper right menu. If I go to my second to last, which looks like literally a little ruler, I can left click on that, and it gives me this little dot out on my screen that's kind of trailing. Maybe I want to know how large these little marquee shaped pieces are. So I can left click on one side and then stretch my measuring tool all the way over to the other side. And you'll notice that as I stretch this measuring tool, it's reading out the exact dimension of what I have there. So I can kind of come over here and see that this is about 3.63 millimeters large or long. If I left click again, I can go back, left click on my measuring tool, and then left click on one side. Now again, drag it across, and it looks like we're at about 2.5 millimeters wide. So again, that's two measuring tools that I think can be really helpful when you're trying to get exact dimensions on what you're working with. Another tool that we have is obviously the design try-on hand. So we mentioned this one a little bit earlier. You can change the finger size. It's going to update the hand based on the finger size that you have put in for the ring. And you can change the skin tone, nail polish color, kind of more for the customer. And now if you take your ring, and right now I'm in top-down view, so I can't change the orientation. So I'm just going to left click on perspective. And now I can kind of rotate this ring around on the hand. Again, my idea has always been to kind of scale the hand on the screen down until it's approximately the size of the customer's hand. So kind of have your customer hold their hand up to the screen over here, kind of on the left side, and have the hand here. And that gives them an approximation of how large the design is, how large the ring is in comparison to the rest of their hand. This is also really helpful when you start getting into the really small details, because it's easy when the customer is working on the ring and it's this large to get really concerned that these milligrain beads are just going to be too large. But when they see it more in perspective, it's easier to understand the impact that the size of the milligrain has on the overall look of the design. So those tools, your grid, your measuring tool, and your design try-on hand, are all great ways for you to help again to convey exactly what the finished size of your customer's ring is going to be. All right, let's hop back into PowerPoint and walk through our last couple of slides. These are some popular wedding band styles that I just wanted to call your attention to. Again, these styles are kind of well performers or high performers for CounterSketch orders, so I specifically wanted to call them out. They're also trending, so they're styles that maybe either weren't in the library in the past, or maybe weren't as popular last year, but now they've gotten a lot more popular. So this band here is a French set band, and you can kind of see that it's got these little French set settings. It's also an eternity. It can be converted into an anniversary band where this is a solid shank at the back instead of an eternity. So it's a really flexible ring, and it also uses that very popular French set styling that we're seeing now. So this is a great one that's been pretty popular. This next band, again, is really popular. I think we've seen kind of a surge in popularity among these little straight baguettes, and so this model uses those straight baguettes as well as rounds, and this one has been very popular as well. The next one is, again, just kind of a classic style. What I love about this one is you can actually remove the milligrain if your customer wants a more classic look. And you can also change this from being a prong set to channel set. Right now you can't tell, but it is set up as an eternity, and it can also be turned into an anniversary. So you can decrease the number of gems in this band. So very flexible, especially if you're trying to get like a matching band to go with an existing band, or a wedding band that doesn't have a matching band to go with it. This is a great straight band to use for that. This next one is a men's band. Again, has a lot of flexibility to it. You can change the number of stones, the size of the stone. These go all the way around, but if you want them to only go partially around, you can. You can change the profile of this. So right now it's kind of a half round. You can make it square. You can add some detailing into the center. So again, just a really flexible kind of men's band or nice wider ladies anniversary band to take a look at. And then this last piece here is just a really fun one. It's been added to the collection recently. It has this infinity kind of style with two different size round stones. Again, this option is available as an eternity or an anniversary, so you can add that closed shank at the back depending on your customer's price point. And all of these would also make really great stackables. So not only are they great wedding bands, but they would be good stackable designs also. All right. So just a reminder, please join us on social media. We are at all of these locations. We recently also added a LinkedIn channel. So not only are we on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, but also LinkedIn. And you can find us on any of those platforms as Gemvision Corp. I know that things are rapidly changing, and so as they do, and Stellar looks to come back online and be full service, we're going to be making announcements on those pages. We have already started to open the factory, and we're shipping in stock items, and we hope to just increase our product offering over the next several days and weeks. So as those announcements come out, you can find them on any of these platforms, again under Gemvision Corp. Also, we do a lot of fun stuff on there. As I mentioned at the top of the hour, we're letting you guys choose what types of models we are creating in the webinars now, and so you could vote on which type of ring you wanted us to build. As I also mentioned before, we are recording this webinar, so if you or other members of your staff would like to access the recording, all you need to do is go to stellar.com/webinars, and then you'll just click on the Watch Now link to be able to see that video. And again, probably this video will be posted early next week sometime. I'll go through and do a little bit of editing, and then we'll get it added to the website probably Monday or Tuesday of next week. So be sure to check that out. As a reminder, we do have some remote training options, so feel free to go to our Gemvision store and check those out. Our training team is still up and running and working very hard, and we've got actually quite a bit of availability for one-on-one hourly sessions with CounterSketch. So if you're interested in deep diving into a specific topic with one of our trainers, we do have availability for that. In addition, we also offer our CounterSketch online training. So if you have a little bit of extra time on your hands and you'd like to invest that extra time in training using CounterSketch, we do offer our online training option, and you can check that out there. Also, we are going to be offering a CounterSketch Level 2 training that is currently planned to be offered in September. This will be the first time that we have ever offered a CounterSketch Level 2 training. We're really excited about it. We hope to go beyond the basics of just using the software and really kind of help you to think outside the box when using CounterSketch to meet your customers' needs. So we're really going to focus on kind of that customer interaction, kind of talking to the customer, finding out what they are looking for, and then being able to utilize CounterSketch to produce that design. So very much hands-on. If you actually are attending this class and you have specific styles that you'd like for us to address in the course, we are taking those recommendations as well. So again, we're just really excited about this new class, and we are wanted to introduce it to you guys first. It's so new that we don't have it on our website yet. So if you are interested in getting this, or if you are interested in attending this class or getting more information about it, just email us at sales@gemvision.com and we will get back to you with more details. Our next solution session is going to be in May. It's going to be Thursday, May 14th at 9 a.m. Central. Again, we're going to go through some Pinterest to price examples. We're going to do a deep dive on any gem, any color, which is a really fun feature. It's also really highly used around Mother's Day, so I wanted to call it out specifically in the month of May. And to sign up for that webinar, just go to the same place where you go to view the CounterSketch webinar recording, and that's stellar.com/. Thank you so much for attending the webinar this morning. We are right at the bottom of the hour, so if you need to get going, again, thank you so much for your time this morning. I appreciate you choosing to spend an hour with me. I know you have a lot of demands on your time, so thanks for spending some of it with me. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar.